I grew a real estate photography business to $20,000 a month in 6 months. And in this video, I'm going to break down step by step exactly what it takes to do that, how I did it, and flatly just show you that it's possible. Before I jump into it, if you don't know who I am, my name is Matthew G. I am the owner of eState Photography. I also own a company called Rep Leadership, which is the biggest real estate photography consulting company in the entire country. We work with hundreds of companies all across the US, helping them scale, helping them grow, breaking down pricing, outreach methods, and literally doing the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video. Where I want to start with everything is how I even did this, right? Where did I get the skills to do this? Well, I started my first real estate media company when I was 19 years old. I was still in college. I had never started a business before. I had never owned a camera before. I'm currently not a photographer. I've never described myself as a photographer. That being said, I always consider myself an entrepreneur, and real estate photography was the lane that I chose when I was 19 years old. I guess it's just what I do now. And so through that, I've learned a lot about real estate photography and what it takes. And I look at this business from the lens of a business perspective, right? Like I said, I don't consider myself a photographer. And the cool thing about real estate photography is you can absolutely dominate your market or dominate your niche regardless of your photography skills. And if you're watching this and you're a photographer and that pisses you off, it's just what it is. And so what I'm gonna show you in this video are the things that you need to look at to scale those $20,000 a month to actually build a real estate photo business. So like I said, I started my business when I was 19 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn about HDR photography. I had to learn about pricing. I learned about how to do the shoots. I had to learn about outreach. There were so many things that I had to unpack, and that company grew slow, right? The company that I'm talking about, 0 to 6 months, $20,000 a month, that was a different business that we actually started in Cleveland, Ohio, scaled and sold. And so that's when I'm gonna break down how we speed ran it. But when I was first starting out, it was a slow burn because I had to learn all of these short and small skills that once you stack them on top of itself, it becomes a real business. And so what we did was by trial and error, we figured out what was working for us. And the number one thing that we focused on was not the photos, it wasn't the editing process, it wasn't our website, it wasn't any of the fun or fancy stuff that maybe you're focusing on. It was very simple, and it's the advice that I give hundreds of companies to this day, which is the more people who know who you are equals the more money you are going to make. And if you don't learn a single thing from this video or me at all, at the end of time, just learn that. The more people who know you equals the more money you're going to make. It is a direct comparison. It is a direct equation. I have a unique perspective on this. Like I said, I work with a lot of companies. And like I said, these companies, the biggest companies, guess what? The most people know who they are. And so the way I break it down is you want to get people to know, like, and trust you. And so that's what we focused on at eState when we were slowly scaling, regardless of our skills, regardless of getting better at the photos or video or all of that stuff, which is important, just not as important if people don't know, like, and trust you. Because how are they supposed to work with you if they don't know you? And just a little caveat on that, that is why word of mouth works so well. Word of mouth works so well because someone is co-signing you to another person. They are doing all three of those things in one fell swoop. They're getting someone to know you, like you, and trust you for you. So you want to take that concept and apply that to the outreach that you're doing. So our main goal when we scale companies is how many agents know who we are. Okay, not enough. Let's get more of them to know that we exist. And it really is that simple. You can choose a channel of outreach, whichever one makes the most sense for you. Emails, texting, calling, DMs, whatever you want to do, paid ads. It really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if that you get them to know you and trust you. And so going back into directly the story, like how did we do this? Well, we chose the closest, biggest city to us. So we started our company in Western New York, and Cleveland, Ohio was the closest, biggest city, like bigger than what we were currently in, to us. And so that's why we chose it. And so the first thing that we did was we took a look at the market and we figured out, is the pricing similar? Okay. So when you're looking at pricing, you want to make sure that not only are you matching the market, but you're not underpricing yourself. When you look at your pricing, your prospects view the number associated with what you're giving them as value. Meaning, if you are underpriced dramatically to your competition, people are going to look at that and think you are worth less than your competition, literally worth less. And so we did not want to build a brand on being bad or worse or less valuable, right? We want to build a brand and get paid as if we are one of the biggest and best in the market. The other thing that we took a look at was real estate photography is a very market specific business. It is a very hometown business. People want to work with photographers that they know, that grew up in the area. And when you're going to another market that you didn't grow up in, that is a hard thing to pull off. That is one of the biggest reasons why there is not a national real estate photography company right now, because real estate agents like doing hometown stuff. That's why the biggest real estate agents in the world sell and specialize in specific markets. That's what real estate is. You know the neighbor down the street. It's all about referrals. And so if you brand yourself as a national company or a franchise or something along those lines, it's going to be much harder to get the trust of the agents that you're trying to work with. So that was another thing that we focused on. And the final thing that we focused on was we took a look at what worked the best when we scaled our first company, what outreach channel worked the best. And we hammered that home. 90% of our energy went to dominating that outreach channel. And for us, it was cold calling. Now, cold calling is one of those things that gets people very nervous. It gets people scared. They don't want to do it. I totally recognize that because there are a lot of skills that are involved in cold calling. There are a lot of things that go into cold calling. One of them is cringe mountain. I call it getting over cringe mountain and onto the other side where you feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling someone who doesn't know who you are, right? There's another thing in terms of memorizing your script. What are you trying to get out of that conversation? There's a lot of soft skills that go into it, right? But we had done so many cold calls at that point that we felt confident in not only our ability to understand our prospect, but also our ability to get what we wanted out of that transaction, which is another mistake a lot of people make just generally in business, but also in real estate photography as to why you're doing outreach in the first place. And so one of the reasons that we did outreach, right, or one of the reasons that you should do outreach is to get people to know, like, and trust you. I'm going to keep saying it. What most people do is they have a perspective and a time horizon of what has happened for me recently, right? And so if you go into your outreach thinking, I'm going to do this, and as long as I get business right now when I do it, I'll continue to, right? That is a wrong perspective to have. Because what's going to happen is you're going to do outreach, and guess what? You're not going to get business, or maybe you get lucky and someone has a listing and hates their current photographer, but that is what luck is, right? You're never going to know when people have a listing for you to shoot, but that's okay, right? That's fine because you're not trying to get sales right now. What you're trying to do is get the top 1,000 agents in your market to know that you exist, so you're the first person they contact when they do have a listing. Like I said, it's a relationship game. And so we understood that. We understood that 9 times out of 10, if we call someone and they don't have a listing, we have nothing to sell them, right? So instead of trying to solve for the inconsistency of how the market works, we actually leaned into it. And so when we made our calls, we weren't doing it under the impression of like, if I don't get business, like I'm gonna stop doing this. That's how you stay inconsistent. What we did was we understood the nature of the business. And so when we called people, we were just trying to get them to like us, right? And so when you call people and you set up secondary calls, or you allow that, you ask them, hey, can I send you this? Can I send you my website, right? Can I text it over to you? Can I follow up with you on Thursday? Oh, I wanna sit down on a meeting with you and talk to you about why we're awesome. Little things like that, right? You can solve for those things at any given moment. And if you make a good enough impression consistently enough and you do it consistently enough, that's how you actually bring on clients, right? And that's how you get people to know, like, and trust you. And so the other thing that we did that separates us and why we're able to scale as quickly as we did in that market was we actually understood what real estate agents paid for, okay? This is another massive misconception that people have. Real estate agents and the people that you're doing work for, they're not just buying photos and video and things along those lines. Like, that is part of why they're buying it. That is part of the value that they want. And some agents view that as the most important thing. Some, all right, keyword there, some. But the average real estate agent is working with you because you are an extension of their team. Okay, so there is a certain level of a floor that you should have with your services. It's a high floor, right? You want to be good. You want to have super high quality stuff. But just because you have super high quality stuff, that doesn't mean that's why they're going to work with you, right? They're going to work with you because you are an extension of their business. You work for them. And we had a very keen understanding of that. So when we were having our conversations and positioning ourselves in our market, We took it from the point of view of we're going to help you sell listings. We're going to help you get listings. You can use us as your real estate media team to land that listing or to make yourself look good in front of your client. Customer service, understanding that, this is the ticky-tack stuff that matters. Wearing company logoed polos, right? Wearing hats, showing up on time, following up with people, asking them for specific shots. The reason that they're working with you has so much more to do with your application of your services and who you are, rather than the services themselves. And this is a massive problem that most real estate photographers misdiagnose, right? They'll look at their services as, well, how come I'm not getting business? My videos are so much better. My photos are so much better. I'm doing flash photography or ambient lighting or whatever it might be, right? Flambient editing, right? And so they kill themselves not understanding why they're not dominating like XYZ person in their marketplaces. Well, it's because you have a misunderstanding as to why your business exists in the first place. The reason your business exists in the first place is to serve real estate agents. And real estate agents cannot tell the difference between this photo or that photo or that photo. Maybe a little bit, right? Maybe some of them can, right? But not as well as you can. They can understand this editing tactic or this type of camera over that type of camera. They don't understand that. And if you're hearing what I'm saying and you're like, well, that's bullshit, I don't like to hear that, or you're wrong, whatever it might be, you can think whatever you want, right? But if you're trying to grow a real estate photography business, you can't force people to like the things that you like, right? You just got to understand what they like. And what they want is good customer service. They want application of your services. They want to be talked to in a certain way. And this is the most key point. I literally have it pinned on my page. Do more outreach, right? And so if there's one reason as to why we were able to scale from $0 to $20,000 in 6 months, it was because we did more outreach than everybody else. It's really that simple. And if you're sitting there and be like, oh, how much outreach is that? It's more than you think, right? But we still did it as owning another company, right? And so I'm not making this video to brag or anything like that. I don't even own that company anymore. I sold it, right? The reason I'm making this video is hopefully the person watching this who really truly wants to grow a real estate photography business understands that once you have the skills and once you have the business and once you have the services locked down, your logo and your colorway and all that stuff, that's like 10% of the battle. Then it's the boring, annoying stuff. It's more outreach. It's smiling more on the shoots. It's doing more phone calls and text messages. It's following up with people after they work with you. It's understanding that when you're copywriting your pricing, you're not going to name it HDR photography as if they know what the hell that is. You're going to name it real estate photography because that's how your prospects' brains work, right? It's the little nuanced stuff as to how real estate photography companies grow and really any companies grow. And so truly, if you're watching this and you want to hit those $20, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 months, it's not because you're not there because your market's too small, or because your competition's a scumbag, or because real estate agents just don't, they're mean, or because of any, reason there's no other reason other than the fact you're not doing enough outreach, right? And you aren't communicating with your prospect in the way that they resonate with, which is very, very difficult, right? Because sometimes you have to swallow that pill and be like, man, the stuff that I know actually matters doesn't matter to them, right? And sometimes you have to give them the stuff that they care about and the stuff that they think matters to be able to do the stuff that you believe matters, right? And that's okay. That's what business is. And so that truly is how we scale that quickly. It's because you understand not all things in business are created equal. Some things give you more leverage than other things. And outreach or marketing or sales, however you want to say it, whatever you want to call it, is the highest lever that you have, right? And so that's what separates companies that do a lot from companies that do a little. And so if you're interested in scaling your real estate photography business, right, I ask you, like, subscribe, comment, share this video, all right? We're going to be posting a lot of videos on here, 100% free. We also have a school community. You can find it in the link in the description. You can join that school community. It's the biggest school community for real estate photographers in the entire US and Canada, and it's constantly growing. There's a lot of awesome resources in there that we don't post on YouTube. We do group calls on there. It's really cheap. It's cheaper than what you spend on coffee. I promise you, Our goal is to get 1,000 people to $10,000 a month doing real estate photography. That's been our goal for 2 years. So if you're watching this video, hopefully that's going to be you. Join the school community if you find it interesting. I don't really care if you do, but we post a lot of gold in there. Or like, comment, subscribe, and keep watching our videos. We're gonna keep posting them and keep crushing it.